Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen, Heavaclone here and how y'all doing, bringing you guys another Fortnite video. So in today's video, we're going to be covering my favorite landing spot and in my eyes, one of the best landing locations, Retail Row. So I'm going to share with you guys the top loot routes there, along with all the callouts you'll need to communicate effectively with your team and get many wins in a row. So let's begin. General overview. Retail Row is a shopping district connected to a small residential neighborhood. It hosts mostly medium-range engagements along with some close-quarters house-to-house combat. With its 17 chest locations, tons of extra floor loot, and central location, it is definitely one of the best landing locations currently in the game. No matter how good it may be, however, it is not without any flaws. Its central location and loot density make it a very dangerous place throughout the entire match, since everyone wants to loot there. Callouts. Alright, so moving on with the callouts portion of the video, currently we are in one of the two distinct portions of Retail Row, and that is the shop district. Alright, we have houses district over there and shop district over here. It's important to be able to differentiate these because I'm going to be referring to them a lot during the callouts and pretty much whenever. Alright, and it's good for you to also differentiate them because when you land in squads or in duos, it's good to tell your team, okay everyone, let's go shops or let's go houses. That way you guys are all in the same half of Retail Row, so you can actually help yourselves or help each other out when you get attacked. Alright, so the first call out here is going to be this shop section, which is noms. All right, we normally call this, like this entire section, the nom shops, right? And these are the far shops because they're on the far end of Retail Row, far away from everything else. Okay, these areas, we don't really have call outs for them. I mean, some people will call this big shots, some people will just call it the nom shops near the power station, right? And people understand it's like this section, or maybe it's behind at the truck, right? Because this is actually another call out, the truck behind noms. And then we have a power station over here. I called it already. Ooh, shoddy, why not? Oh, I already had a shoddy. It's all good, whatever. So yeah, this is power station. And then we've got in these far shops, we've got the good old fish shops, right? So well, this is, I call it fish shops, but a lot of people call it like the canoe shop or the outdoor shop. Whatever floats your boat, as long as you understand and know what it means. All right, so yeah, we've got this here, and then this shop section over here is the construction shops, and then we've got the library shops. It's kind of weird to differentiate them. People don't really differentiate, like when normally in my matches when people call them out, they don't really call this like library shops, right? They'll just say in the far shops, and normally that's good enough because players are always on the move, right? So if you call them out in this shop, it could be like 5 seconds later they're in this shop or even in this shop, right? So you just gotta pay attention to that, because if you give calls that are too specific, often they won't be accurate after a few seconds. So normally people say, okay, there's people in far shops, or there's people in nom shops, and then people head to nom shops, and then as they get close, they have audio cues that they can use and just visual cues as well that can tell them where the enemy is. You just need to give them a general direction and send them on their way. This is also called Joel's bar. Well, it's a bar, right? So it has a sign called Joel, so we call it Joel's bar. It's actually really cool that they did that, because originally this was like a really boring building, and like it was really hard to find a call out for it, but now Joel's. And then we've got water station. So yeah, that's pretty much all you've got for the shops like district. And then we've got an ice cream truck here. This is very occasional, like very rarely used, but it's good to know it's here. And then we've got tacos, which is, well, tacos, right? So it's a taco shop, right? It's actually really central, and I actually really like coming up here on my way out from, let's say I finished looting all of shops, right? I'll come up here and then take a look at the houses district and be like, okay, is there anyone here, right? Because when you're crouched here, nobody can see you, and you can see around like over the edge, so you can look, okay, what was looted, where did people go, where should I go, right? And then after you've made a decision, let's say I'm gonna go doghouse now, then you go doghouse. Or you can also, coming out of shops, let's say you loot noms, you come all around here, and then you transition into doghouse, then into broken house, and then keep going there, clearing house by house, make sure everyone's dead, or killing them if they're not, right? So yeah, here we are in doghouse. Oh, by the way, this is doghouse. Yeah, I know I just called it out as doghouse without like really paying attention. This is doghouse because it's got a chest. Just like in every other location, there's always one doghouse with a chest in it, right? So we call it doghouse. It's a good way to differentiate houses. And then
Moving on to shop. This is now it's like pretty much a transition into. Ooh, is that Scar? Okay, hold on. I gotta go to Scar, man. Because after I finish this commentary, actually, I gotta go and win the match, of course. So yeah, after this house district, we've got broken. There are actually 2 broken houses, and the big thing to remember about houses is that the best way to do callouts with them is to use altitude, right? So these are low houses, these are high houses. So for example, for the 2 broken houses, right, you'll differentiate. This will be high broken, this will be low broken. All right, and it makes sense, right? Because this one's higher, this one is higher than that one, so it's a good way to differentiate them. And then after that, that's pretty much the only big houses that you have in this section. Then you have the super low houses at the lowest part of the houses. So then you have red brick, right? This essentially we have 2 houses here, right? And how do we want to differentiate these? Well, they're both brick houses, so we can't really differentiate by them like that, right? So what we'll do is, there's a dude there, look at that. All right, we'll call out this as being red brick, and then we'll call out this as being the low house, right? So lowest house and then red brick. That's just a good way to differentiate them. Again, whatever's logical and works. I'm actually gonna go kill this dude.
Looting strategies. Before moving on to the best possible loot routes, it's important to know which of the routes to pick when jumping from the battle bus. As you open your parachute, you need to get into the habit of eyeing out potential floor loot and enemy trajectories. From this information, you can make a decision as to which landing spot will give you the highest probability of living. For example, if you see a pump shotgun on the roof of Noms, you should land there and get it instantly. That way, the second you land, you'll have the weapons you need to defend yourself. If, however, you see someone else who's lower than you going for it as well, get away from them as quickly as possible because they'll land first, get the weapon, and kill you right away. Learning all the floor loot spots goes a long way in getting weapons first, since if you don't get the weapon you wanted when landing, you can always instantly run over to the next closest floor loot or chest. So on screen now, you should be seeing all the possible loot routes outlined in different colors. Do keep in mind, however, that these aren't all of the possible looting routes. You can pretty much land anywhere in Retail Row and get good loot. These are just the routes I personally get the most success with. You might notice that these routes don't go through the entirety of Retail Row, and that's because normally, by the time I've done these routes, I have enough loot to start hunting other players, then looting the rest as I go. So the first one I use is to either land at the Nom shops or Far shops, then making my way through all the shops. This is a pretty linear route, and there often aren't many people that come from houses into shops until later. So if you land there, you'll only have to deal with whoever else lands at shops for the first few minutes of the match. Eventually, players from houses will make their way to you though, so keep an eye out. The next 2 I have for you are in the houses district. The better of the 2 in my opinion is to land Doghouse since it has more chest locations, but if you land in one of the broken buildings, the loot there isn't too bad either. Be careful in these 2 loot routes though, because most of the players that land in Retail Row land in the houses district, so expect to be surrounded by players. Alright, that's all I have for you ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and learned something useful. If you did, why don't you hit that subscribe button because I have more useful information coming your way. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one.